Having been buried with him in baptism, talking about Christ, in which you are also raised with him through faith in the powerful working of God who raised him from the dead. And you were dead in your trespasses and sins. God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses by canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them. So this is what it means to be a Christian. This is what we're celebrating here today. We have a God who makes all things new. It is a beautiful statement of who our God is. He is in the business of making everything new.
So my walk with the Lord began in reality for me after my freshman year of college. Prior to that, I was in the midst of my dark years, full force. I wanted nothing to do with my parents and their ideals, and my deepest desire was for control of my life and the fulfillment of personal gains. By God's grace, a couple of things happened to me in college that, despite how happenstance they felt at the time, had an immeasurable impact on my life. I ended up living in a dorm full of godly women who loved the Lord, and though they all too were at different stages in their walk, they became dear friends who modeled Christ-like behavior to me, and their attitudes influenced me greatly. These women brought me to church, and it was at that time that I began to understand the sacrifice that was made for me when Christ died and was buried for me, and my inability to save myself. So I've hated the hard things that have happened to me in my life. The end of a relationship that I desperately clung to for my worth for far too many years. The death of a dear grandmother at the same time. A difficult and lonely move to a new city. All these things, while in the midst of them felt unfair and difficult, in them I also realized my depravity. And I realized how disappointing the empty idols that my sin, the empty and simple idols that I was clinging to, and how much I needed God. I've never made a public profession of faith before, and I've always been resistant to it, just averting my gaze and ducking my head when the topic came up. But lately it's been coming up and coming up and coming up, and my fear of standing out and my simple heart wanting to be an incognito Christian has driven that. But lately it's just begun to weigh on my heart. And I want to do this because I'm not the same woman that I was before I was called to the Lord. My view of every single thing in my life has changed. I'm immeasurably thankful for my salvation, and I'm completely new, born again, and I want a symbol of that, as well as my gratitude, to be this exclamation to the world. That's awesome. To cover my sin, only your blood is enough to cover me.
Put it all aside and just lived how I wanted to live and did the things that I wanted to do. And for a while it was okay. I had fun until I sort of started realizing how empty everything was, and how meaningless everything was. And I couldn't think about the future because I knew I wasn't in the right. I couldn't think about trying to find a wife or wondering what to do with the rest of my life because I knew that I didn't want to live my life like this. So I lived like that for years. And one day I met Molly and her roommates, who happened to be our neighbors at the time, and they were Christian people. And I started being around Christian people again, and I was like, this is what I wanted. This is what I've been looking for. And so, for several months, I tried to be that. I didn't try to find the Lord, I just tried to be that. And I started trying to pray again and trying to read my Bible, and of course nothing was becoming of it. It was just, I wanted that outward appearance. I just didn't want to make that sacrifice. And my whole life, I'd always lived everything in here. Everything was always, I'll figure it out, you know? If I'm not doing something well enough, I'll work harder. And my whole life, I failed to do that. For some reason, I kept trying it. I never thought that I should let anyone else in. I can remember her witnessing to me. I can remember telling her that I was trying to restore my faith, and it just wasn't happening. And she sent me a really long text. I don't remember what it said, but she followed it. She followed it with a really short one that said, "Is it something you really want?" And I can remember typing out yes, but it feels like I've spent years building up a wall and I can't break through it. I don't know if maybe it was just admitting it to someone or what, but in that moment, God met me. And it was crazy. And I wept and just prayed and just poured it all out, and it was there. That was earlier this year, and it has been crazy. It has been so intense and incredible. Just looking back to who I was a year ago, and who's made me today, and I cry now. And it's wonderful. I can acknowledge my past. I can acknowledge my emotions because I don't have to hide anymore. I can lay it all out before Him, and I'm often not who I want to be and not who He calls me to be, but because of the sacrifice that Christ made, He accepts me anyway. And you can talk to Molly and her roommates. You can talk to Nate and my roommates or my parents, and they'll tell you this last year has been so wonderful. And I've changed so much, and I'm so glad to be here, to be able to make this statement and to let all of you know that this is going to be my life now. This is who I'm going to be, and it's who I've always wanted to be, and it's who I'm so glad that I get to be.
Calling you